Hey guys, my name's Shelby. So today I want to talk to you guys about Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know by Samira Ahmed. So she's also written the book Internment that you might have heard of, as well as worked on the Mrs. Marvel series for Marvel Comics, right? So this book is about a teen who is in Paris for the summer, who's interested in art history, and she runs into Alexander Dumas, not the author Alexander Dumas, but his great grandson. And it turns out, right, that they have like a lot of shared interests, right? She's really interested in Eugene Delacroix, and this specific painting that's at the Art Institute of Chicago. And together they're trying to look into it. They're saying, well, we think that maybe Delacroix gave Dumas a painting, but we don't know, and we're going to try to find out, right? So they start working together, and they try to solve this right? And so it turns into a mystery, basically. Part romance, part mystery, part historical fiction, I guess you would say. Right? And it's about unraveling kind of, right, Alexandra's family history, and specifically this like mysterious figure, right? The lady with raven tresses, who they aren't really sure who she is, right? But they think she might have inspired Delacroix and Dumas, as well as Lord Byron, right? And right, so they're figuring out who she is, right? And then interspersed with the chapters that this average teen Kayam is narrating, there's chapters from Layla, right? The lady with raven tresses, right? I'm kind of giving little snippets of her story, which is, not based on real, right? Like, there's a lot of historical figures, but she's, I guess, a figment of Ahmed's imagination, right? She's someone that could have inspired them, that has a lot of, I guess, continuities and similarities with the stories that they did write in real life. And it's really like an exploration of, like, I guess, female agency, and I guess the idea of telling your own story, right? Like, who gets to tell their own story, and whose story gets told by other people or gets co-opted by other people, right? Because Layla doesn't really have a voice of her own, right? Well, she does in the narrative, but within the story she doesn't, I guess, right? So her story is told through these great men, these great artists, so to say, and really the only people who are interested in her own words and her own story as she presented it herself are Alexandra and Khayyam, right? And that's right. So there's and that's kind of the central the driving factor behind the plot and behind the story. Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, right? This isn't a book that I got into right away, right? So I started reading it, and I kind of thought it was boring, right? And I thought the character was a little annoying, right? She kind of seems like Leslie Knope, to be honest, like a teenage Indian American Leslie Knope, and not like in a favorable way, at least at the beginning. And she complains a lot, but really, I think I ended up liking it a lot, enough that I wanted to do this video review, because I could talk about this book for forever and ever. And I think that's really because of the way that Ahmed like weaves these two narratives together, and the way that she, right, I think there's, at least for me personally, I have books that I don't like, but they fascinate me, right? Or that's a wrong way. I don't want to make it seem like I don't like this book, but there are definitely things where I'm like, like, this isn't like a blockbuster, right? It's not keeping me on the edge of my seat, but it gives me a lot to think about, right? Thematically, and in terms of the characters and their motivation, right? There's a lot of really interesting things about the characters lying to each other, right? About how Layla lies to the people around her, for her own protection, right? So that she doesn't get beheaded by her husband, or she doesn't get kicked out of this like weird artist commune in Paris when they're paying her. They're basically giving her a living, right? She's pretending to be like a fortune teller. And then Khayyam lies to Alexandra about, or not, maybe not lie, but she doesn't tell him the truth about her not really boyfriend back in Chicago, who she's using him to kind of get at, right? And then that conflict blows up in her face, and that's a really fun, neat thing that ties into Layla's plot, and into this theme of, I guess, telling your own story, right? And how it's not you can't you don't if you don't tell your own story, right, it's gonna get told for you, right? So like Kayam wasn't truthful, and it ended up blowing up in her face is really right. But right, so this is stuff I'm just like realizing right now, even right, because it's just there's so much there, right? So if you're like me, if you like weird books that make you think about stuff, that make your brain that treat your brain like a punching bag, like you're in a Looney Tunes cartoon, then this is a really good book, right? Right. Probably the most similar book that I've read to this is The Swan Thieves by Elizabeth Kosova, right? So that is it's a book for adult readers, right? It's similar, right? There's an art mystery, and there's a lot of letters, and there's a lot of thinking about people and their motivations and their stories, and how those stories get told or not told. But this one is better, right? That book is kind of silly, and I feel like some of the characters aren't really fleshed out too well. But this is a good book. You should read it. Yeah, so that's what I have for you. Thanks for watching.